There are 5 stages of developing social media strategy. So if we think about this carefully, step 1, listen, evaluate, and learn. So we need to realistically listen to our customers. We need to evaluate what they're telling us, and we need to learn from this particular process. That feedback is available everywhere. We can get feedback from our customers. We can get feedback from our competitors. We can really get data from a lot of different places. But data in itself is not terribly useful because data is unprocessed. Once we analyze it, we get an evaluation or analysis. That's information. And what we learn from this information, that we need to put forward into everything that we do when it comes to our content marketing strategy. The second step, setting objectives. If we don't know what we're aiming for, it's really, really hard to get there, especially because it's hard to tell if we're on the right track. So we have to set objectives. When it comes to setting objectives, the objectives have to be SMART, which stands for specific, measurable, achievable/attainable, realistic, and the last one, timely. So this is the SMART principle. So whenever we set an objective, they have to be SMART. So to be specific, right? This is what we're trying to achieve. Measurable. So what does that mean exactly, right? Like how much do we need to achieve? For example, if you said specifically, we want to raise awareness. Okay, cool. We need to raise awareness. That's great. The measurable part tells us by how much. The achievable and realistic components, these are, well, I suppose kind of negotiated. Imagine if you're running your own business and you're creating an objective. You want to make sure that your objective is achievable and realistic. Because let's be honest, if it's not, then you're just going to demotivate yourself when you can't achieve that particular target. If you're working in an organization and the SMART objectives we're setting is for maybe other people who work in our organization, say you're the team manager or team leader and you're creating this for your team, you could sit with them and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. So this is the very specific thing that I want you guys to do. This is the measurable components of how much you need to do. From an achievable, realistic perspective, you'd get some feedback from them. From a social media strategy, you might say, hey, we're looking to raise our awareness. That's specific. The measurable component, by how much? The next part being so specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely. Timely is by when. And time is absolutely critical. Because here's the thing, an objective without a time component, well, how do you know if you're on the right track? How do you know if you are moving towards the right direction? Or how do you know that you're even arrived? Do you just keep doing an activity till you either run out of budget, run out of patience, or till you achieve it? So you have to have a time component that's associated with it, because time makes everything else quite relative. The next part, so this is step 3, planning activities. When we think about content and we think about developing social media content, it's not just we've created it and it's done and it's over. It's actually a series of activities put together all the way from the planning phase to the content capturing phase to the editing phase to eventually the launch phase where our content goes out on the various social media platforms. So planning for these activities is really, really important. Remember, we don't have unlimited budget. We don't have unlimited time. We don't have unlimited human capital, as in human resources. Everything is scarce. So we need to make sure our planning is in place. The next part is deploy and engage. So this is step 4, deploy and engage. Our content's been created. Let's launch it on the various social media platforms that we're using. Here we might go, okay, we're going to stagger this. So let's launch it over here to create buzz first, so maybe on Instagram. On YouTube, then we launch it next. And this is to drive engagement. So here we're creating the buzz on Instagram, driving people to our YouTube video, which is longer, and that drives the engagement component. From there, we start creating additional backlinks into our actual website. So this is where the SEO component kicks in. So as people are clicking onto it, they go to our website, SEO starts kicking in, hopefully raising the value of that particular web page, making it easier to find in the future for other customers. Now, the engagement part here is really important too. So far we've talked about deploying. The engaging part is when people write something to you. So for example, whether it's on Instagram or on Facebook, well, we should reply to them. We should reply to their comments. We should engage with them. After all, this is why social media is social. It's two-way. It's engaging, right? So it's really important that we engage with our audience. The last part, step 5, measure outcomes. Now that we've done all this amazing stuff, we need to see, did it work? Were we successful? If so, how successful? If it didn't work, okay, how much did we miss it by? Right? We set objectives in step 2. So how much did we miss our objectives by? So measuring our output becomes really, really important. From a future perspective, by measuring output, what we're also doing is planning for future campaigns or future content. If it didn't work, we can break it down and try and understand what worked, what didn't work, why it didn't work, if something did work, why it did work, and then put that into our learning evaluation process. It really is continuous improvement. We don't just stop at one particular point and start the next process completely fresh. We want to learn from this experience and do it better going forward. So we're talking about developing a social media strategy. Think of it from a long-term perspective, but think of it from these particular 5 steps. And each time we start again, okay, we do start at 0. In the sense, we do start at the beginning, but hopefully we start at a higher level. The next time at a higher level, because we've acquired knowledge, understanding, and skills along the way.